Hey guys who weren't able to join the call. I'm creating this recording afterwards for two reasons. One, I forgot to press record, classic. And two, I thought this might be shorter than having you have to listen to the whole 1 hour meeting. I also noted down the questions that came at the end, and I'm just going to answer them on this call. Okay, so what I did was we had people from Mexico, India, Chile, America, Nepal on the call, and we have Belgium, the UK, and Spain, who are also interested in taking part, which is really exciting. So the way this is going to work is obviously this call is about the Map the System competition that I've signed the Teach for All network up to. And the way I'm going to run this is I've got this PowerPoint. In the PowerPoint, I'm going to cover what is the Skoll Centre for Entrepreneurship. That's the institution that is running the competition. Then I'm going to give a quick overview of the actual competition itself and explain how and why the Teach for All network became involved in the competition in the first place. Then we're going to talk about who is eligible to take part, what they need to submit, what the prizes are, what the timeline is, and what's my role at Teach for All and your role as a partner. And then I'm going to explain what the questions were off the back of the call. And if you have any further questions, do email me them. So first off, what is the Skoll Centre for Social Entrepreneurship? This guy in the corner of this slide is called Jeff Skoll, and he was the first CEO of eBay. I'm sure you know what eBay is, the big online auction platform. So he was the first CEO, so obviously he made a ton of money. And one of the things he decided to do with his money was set up the Skoll Foundation. And the Skoll Foundation exists to nurture social entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurs, not just in the field of education, but across lots of different fields, so health, water, sanitation, etc. And one of the things the Skoll Foundation funds is the Skoll Centre for Social Entrepreneurship, which is a physical institution which is housed in the University of Oxford in England. And the centre exists to deliver research and education and bring together collaborations of people interested and doing social entrepreneurship. So one of the things they do, out of many, many things, is run this Map the System competition. So the Map the System competition is a global competition for students and graduates. By students and graduates, that means participants and alumni in Teach for All language. So it's a global competition for students and graduates to learn more about a social problem they care about and present their findings to the world. Okay, so the majority of people taking part in this competition are students at university. They might be an undergrad, they might be doing a master's, they might be a PhD student. Skoll are very loose about how they define student, but the majority of people that are taking part in this competition are students. So applicants in this competition are asked to map out the problem that they want to solve and do research into the landscape of current solutions, and then identify gaps where innovation might be possible. It is not a traditional business plan competition. So Skoll are really firm about this. This problem is focusing on the problem. This competition is focusing on the problem, not just the solution. Okay, so they're not asking for new ideas. They're asking for research into the problem. But as part of that, people can submit new ideas, but the focus is on the problem research. It's run by the Skoll Centre, and the way they do it is they partner with different institutions around the world who each run the competition throughout their institution. So the other institutions are universities. So the University of Oxford is taking part, the University of Toronto, universities in Australia, universities all around the world, and they're getting their students to take part in this competition. I have worked with Skoll to agree that the Teach for All network and all of our partner organisations are institutions, and our participants are students and our alumni are graduates. So that's fine with Skoll. Our people are eligible. Finally, the teams and individuals will compete to win prizes, and they will present their findings in Oxford at a global event. So why and how did Teach for All get involved? Last year, there's a lady called Daniela Papley Thornton, who used to work at the Skoll Centre, who did this piece of research into the current state of social entrepreneurship. The research is here. It's called Tackling Heropreneurship. That's a link. And her research made her worry, because she worried that the current trend in social entrepreneurship is for people to have new ideas and get really excited by new ideas and new solutions. And she felt that some of the ideas and solutions that were being generated at the moment were not very good. The quality wasn't very good. And it's because the entrepreneurs are being obsessed and falling in love with their solution and their idea and not doing enough research into the problem that needs to be tackled. She also did a really good TED talk on this, and there's the link to it there. So the Skoll Centre created this competition to try and incentivize and provide support for people to understand the problem before generating new solutions. So I think this could be a really good way for us to easily, hopefully, provide support and some structure and an incentive for our participants and alumni to take step one in their journey to becoming social entrepreneurs by understanding the problem. As a result, I hope that the quality of solutions that our participants and alumni then develop will be better, because they'll be informed by the research. I also hope that by taking part in this competition, we can foster an interconnected community, a global community of problem solvers and teacherpreneurs, which is a new term I'm coining to describe our teachers becoming entrepreneurs, so using their classroom experiences to become entrepreneurs, teacherpreneurs. So hopefully we'll be able to see what different teams are researching around the world. So if we have a team in Mexico looking at primary school literacy, for example, and a team in India working on primary school literacy, and a team in Belgium working on primary school literacy, we'll be able to connect them up, which could be quite cool. And finally, I wanted to join this competition to shine a light on this really early stage work that our participants and alumni are doing. Often I talk about the alumni who are running big organizations that have scaled, and they get the limelight, they get the spotlight on them. And I think, it's really important that we shine a light on the brilliant work that our alumni and participants are doing at the start of their journey. It'll also be a great way to profile what you guys are doing as Teach for All network partners, and also what we're doing at Teach for All. But with that, this is an experiment. So this is the first time we've taken part. Who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully it's a good experiment, but it is definitely an experiment. So, key criteria. Who is eligible to take part? So, people can apply as individuals or teams. The maximum number of a team is 5 people. The key thing is at least one member of the team must be a current student, i.e. participant, or a recent graduate, i.e. an alumni. And by recent, Skoll mean that they have completed the program, i.e. they completed the leadership development program within 12 months of registering for the competition. Okay, so at least one member of the team has to be either a participant or a recent alumni. The rest of the team can be anyone else. Okay, and the final thing is that they must be in the early stages of their social entrepreneurship journey. So they might have a solution, that's fine, and they can include that in their application, but they must be also still, it must be a new baby solution, basically, and they're still researching the problem. So, what happens next? Anyone who wants to take part in the competition must apply and register. Anyone who wants to take part in the competition must register, i.e. tell Skoll they want to take part by Monday, the 8th of January. That's a hard deadline. And by registering, all that means is they go on the Map the System website, and here is the webpage. It has all the information about the competition, the prizes, the other institutions that are taking part. So you can see the Teach for All networks here, but we also have universities in Australia, in South Africa, in the UK, in America, or in Canada, all around the world. So they click take part, and then it takes them to even more information. So who's the competition for, what's the eligibility criteria, the key dates, all this information. And they click register now. And there are 2 parts to this form. The first one is part 1, which needs to happen by the 8th of January. So this is just telling SCOL they want to take part. Part 2 is actually submitting their application, and they must do that by the 26th of March. So to quickly tell SCOL they want to take part, all they do is write their name. So let's put Lucy test, and you guys can do this if you want to. Just put test so you can see the application form. That's my email. I could put my LinkedIn profile if I wanted to. Right, let's say I'm taking part in Spain. Where's Spain? That's weird. Spain's not on there. I'll have to get them to do that. Okay, let's say I'm taking part in Chile. Then I'm going to click through, and the name of my organisation is Enseña Chile. The title of my study is let's just put Enseña Chile. You can put Teach for India, whatever. Enseña Chile is the department. My graduation year, so this is the year that I finished the 2-year programme, not started. So let's say it's 2016. I can add other team members if I want, but let's say I'm doing this as an individual. My team name, let's say Enseña Chile Heroes. My topic area is probably going to be education, but it could be the others, but it's probably going to be education. And then I'm asked 2 questions. One, describe the issue that I want to research. So let's say low literacy scores in Chile with children from low-income families. And then it says, how am I going to research this issue? So I might put, I'm going to examine national data sets. I'm going to study my students in my classroom. I'm going to interview colleagues, teachers in my school. I'm going to hold focus groups with parents. I'm going to read academic articles on the issue. So just a high level approach to research. And that's it, I'm done. I have signed up and told SCOL I'm taking part, and I will receive a bounce back email from SCOL. Here it is. And it will say, thank you, we've received your registration. And it gives me a bunch of useful tools. So here's some resources, some videos from last year and some presentations from last year's winners, which is super helpful so people can get an understanding of like what they need to produce. Some submission guidelines that they can have a look at, a reminder that the deadline to apply is the 26th of March, and some FAQs. So that's quite helpful. So then by the 26th of March, let's just check. Yes, by the 26th of March, the applicants, the teams or individuals need to submit 3 things. The first is a visual map of the problem and the solutions landscape. Yeah. They need to do an analysis of their research, so a mini essay of maximum 2,000 words, and then a bibliography of everywhere that they looked. Unfortunately, this year, the entries must be submitted in English. I have asked SCOL if in future years, if Teach for All decides to do this again, that's not that helpful. But this year, unfortunately, it has to be in English. And then on the website, SCOL have some examples from last year's winners, which are super helpful. So they've actually put on the presentations that the winners presented, but they've also showed what they submitted. So the visual map of the problem, the short mini essay, and the bibliography. For first place, second place, and third place, they've got these presentations and submissions. So that's really useful for participants from our network to see the level of what is expected of them. Okay, so what happens then? So let's say different teams from around the Teach for All network have applied. Then we have 1 month, so between the 26th of March and the 27th of April, to decide which is the winning team from the Teach for All network. So we have a judging panel made up of some network partner staff, so Cheyenne from Teach for India, Carmen from Teach for America, Sonia from Spain, Helene from Belgium, and then me and a colleague from Teach for All, and anyone else who wants to take part, who's a innovation manager or head of alumni at a partner. We're going to decide, out of all the applicants from the Teach for All network, which is the applicant or the team with the strongest application. So who wins out of the Teach for All network? And then we are going to send that winning team to represent the Teach for All network to go to Oxford to pitch their application to the winning teams from the other institutions that have taken part. So they'll be competing against the winning team from the University of Oxford, the winning team from the University of Melbourne, the winning team from the University of Toronto. And their trip, their travel and expenses is paid for by Teach for All. Okay, so we'll be selecting the Teach for All winner. They will go to Oxford, and the 3 winning teams at Oxford will receive, the first place team will get £3,000 British pounds and tickets to an education innovation conference called Emerge Education Conference, which happens in 2018 in October, and they'll have their travel paid for. The second place team, and this prize is from Skoll, not Teach for All. The second place team get £2,000 and the same travel allowance and tickets, and the third place team get £1,000 and the same travel allowance and tickets. So that is the winning team from the competition that happens in Oxford. Okay, so the Teach for All winning team could get the first, second, or third place, and so could the team from University of Oxford. Does that make sense? So what happens from now? I've made this timeline with a date, the task for the applicants, the task for me at Teach for All, and then your role. So between now and the 8th of January, all applicants, so anyone who wants to take part, needs to register, as I just did. At the same time, at Teach for All, we're creating a Facebook event, and I would love for anyone who's applying for this competition to join this Facebook event so we can see who's doing what all around the network. And it's a forum for them to be able to ask questions to me at Teach for All and to learn about one another. I also get an email from Skoll every Monday telling me who's signed up from the Teach for All network, and I will send that to you every Monday so that you can see who is applying from your community. At the same time, your role between now and the 8th of January is to really market this and promote this to people who you think would like to take part in your community. If you can share the link with them and support them with any technical questions around registering. So you might have to explain to them that they are eligible and what the eligibility criteria is. As long as one of their team is a current participant or a recent alumni, they can apply. And also on the Skoll registration form, they use the word student a lot because normally this is a competition for students, but we know that Teach for All are eligible, so you might have to explain that. If you have any extra capacity and you want to, you can help advise them on their topic, but that is purely optional. So then between January and March, our applicants need to research and prepare their submissions. I'm proposing that in January, I will set up a call for us, again, one more call, to just check who's applying, so who's coming in from each country, and just check that we're okay with the process. And I'll be managing the Facebook group, or actually my colleague Meg will be managing the Facebook group between January and March to answer questions, remind people of the deadlines, and start to facilitate the discussion. Your role between January and March is to remind the applicants from your country that they need to apply by March the 26th. If possible, to track them, just make sure they're on track and they're progressing. And then optional, if you can support them locally, absolutely, definitely do that. If you have the capacity to and you're interested in it. And if you can support them with English translation, again, that's optional. But if you can, awesome. Then on the 26th of March, applicants must have submitted their application, the map, the problem map, the report, and the bibliography. On this day, at Teach for All, we're going to be doing a big media campaign around the applicants. So we're going to be profiling different people from different countries who are taking part in this competition and launching this through a big media campaign. And I would love it if you could share that through your comms channels too. So I mentioned the Facebook group. So we have at the moment a Teach for All Facebook group for social entrepreneurs. I'm not sure why the cover photo looks like that. I'm going to get that sorted out today. At the moment, it has 143 people in this group, which is really cool. Most of them are alumni social entrepreneurs. My colleague Meg manages this group, and she's going to create an event within the group for anyone doing the Skoll competition. And the idea is that they will join this event, and in the event we can create these discussions, and we'll be able to see who's looking at similar problems all around our network, and hopefully start to create this interconnected group of problem solvers. So when people register from your country on the Skoll website, it would also be great if they could join this Facebook group and the event, which will exist in the next couple of days. And if you want to join this group, you're more than welcome to as well. So after people have applied, what happens next? So at Teach for All, we're going to be working with that judging panel to select the winning team and tell Skoll who the Teach for All winner is. We're also going to announce the winning team to the network. And the judging panel will be preparing feedback for everyone who applied. Your role, if you want to, is to help as a judge, but definitely to help share the feedback to the applicants from your country, and then to help us announce the winning team through your partner communications channels. Then and we have 1 month to do that. So between applying and telling Skoll. Then between the 27th of April and the 31st of May, the winning team from the Teach for All network will need to prepare their pitch and their presentation, and also get their accommodation and travel sorted out to go to Oxford. I will be supporting them with that logistical prep, so the accommodation and the travel, and I'll also be offering one-to-one support with them to help them prepare a really great pitch. If you want to, you could definitely support with that preparation for the pitch too, but that's again optional. Then on the 1st to the 3rd of June, a weekend in June, the winning team from the Teach for All network will go to Oxford and compete against the other winning teams from the other organisations to decide who has won the whole competition. There'll be Teach for All there to support the winning team from the Teach for All network. And at the same time, Skoll will be running lots of public relations, communications efforts, and we at Teach for All will be running a global PR campaign too. I'm going to try and find a way. I need to find the budget at the moment, but for network partner staff from the organisation that the winning team is from to attend the Skoll event too. I'm not promising that, but I'm going to try my best. So let's say the Teach for All network winner comes from Belgium, then I would try to ensure that a member of staff from Teach for Belgium can join them in Oxford. We're also going to be asking you if you can support the Skoll Centre and the Teach for All communications campaigns during that time. So that's the competition. So how are we going to evaluate this experiment? So the first way is that when we send all the applicants their feedback, the unsuccessful applicants from the Teach for All network their feedback, we're also going to include an evaluation survey which asks them some very simple, short questions on their experience of taking part in the competition. At the final in June, when we're with the Teach for All winning team, we can interview them and get their feedback on the competition. After the final has happened, I'm proposing that we have one more final call with you guys, so all the partner staff that took part in the competition. So a mini focus group basically to identify your feedback, ideas, lessons, and think about whether or not we should do it again. And then we're also going to be able to look at the quality of the applications in the Teach for All network and the rate of dropout, so how many people sign up in January but don't submit an application, and also how well the engagement is on the Facebook group. And that will help us to determine whether or not we do this again. I don't have any strong feelings about this, so I'm not going to be pressuring us to do this every year, but it would be really interesting to see whether or not this is useful. So there are 39 days between now and the registration deadline of the 8th of January. I'm proposing that you guys do the following if you still want to take part. First, I would identify potential applicants from your communities. So is it your first year fellows, your second year fellows? Do you already run innovation programs where a big component of the program is doing research, and could this competition incentivize your people to do it? Who are the potential applicants in your community? then I would share this opportunity with them. I would do some broad promotion through your big newsletters and general communications channels, but I would also encourage you to do some targeted promotion. So email people, the individuals, get in contact with them and say, look, we think this would be a really good opportunity for you. I suggest that you organise a call a bit like this one, and you can use this presentation to explain the details. Potentially doing that in the next couple of weeks would be good, and then remind people to register by the 8th of January. Some questions that came out of the discussion were, who can take part? So just to reconfirm, this is for first year fellows and participants, it's for second year fellows and participants, and it's for your alumni. As long as one person in the team is either a current participant or a recent alumni, anyone else can be in the team. Okay, so let's say you have 2 alumni who graduated from the program in 2013. They're not eligible, but if they can find a current fellow or a recent alumni to join their team, they are eligible. So I'd encourage you to play the game and make this work. The other question that we had on who can take part is, what about if they've already done a bunch of research? What about if they've been researching for the last 6 months or year? That's fine. When they register with Skull, one of the questions is, how do you propose to conduct your research? I would suggest that they just say, in the next 3 months, I will build upon some existing research that I've conducted. I think that's fine. Again, I just think really cleverly about how people answer the questions. In terms of the problem, so there was a question around like, what kind of problems should people be solving? Skull have created this criteria, the judging criteria, which I'm going to share with you, and it has 5 different criteria. The first is the understanding of the problem. And the first bit of the criteria is, does this solution present a macro view of the problem? So what we're looking for here is big problems, yeah? So some of the research needs to focus on the big problem. But then the unique thing about our network is that often in their classrooms and communities, the problem plays out on a micro scale. So I would encourage your participants and alumni to do both, okay? So let's say the problem is low levels of reading in children from poorer backgrounds. So I would start my research saying, in my city or in my country, the data shows that children from the poorest backgrounds often have the lowest levels of reading at the age of 11. And then I would share some data around that and possibly some academic articles that have been written about why kids from poor backgrounds often have lower reading scores than their wealthier peers. Then I would say, this problem plays out in my classroom or played out when I was teaching, if I'm an alumni, no longer in teaching, and it looked like this. So I encourage your people to tackle like the big problem at a macro level and then talk about it as a micro level in their communities or classrooms, okay? But the problem does need to affect a large number of people. It doesn't have to be a country, it could be a city, okay? The second criteria is around solution, so understanding of the current solutions in the landscape. So this is asking people to go and research like what's already being done in the city or the country or the context to solve this problem, and what's good about what's being done and what's not working. Okay, so this is looking at what's happening already. The criteria 3, identification of gaps and levers for change. So this is asking like, where's the gap here? Is there room for innovation? Okay, and what should that innovation be? So let's say that reading example. If the problem was kids from poorer backgrounds have lower reading scores, the existing solutions, let's say, might all be tackling parents and trying to work with parents, okay? And as part of the research, the fellow and alumni might say, actually, all of the solutions currently are looking at working with parents, but we think there's a gap and an opportunity to work with teachers instead of parents and support teachers to develop their abilities to help kids from poor backgrounds to read. And we developed a solution which is going to work with teachers, for example, okay? The type of solution is open. So it could be a new social enterprise idea, but SCOL don't mind if it is a new policy from the government or a school initiative. The type of solution is open. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a social enterprise. The fourth criteria is around lessons learned. So what have they learned from conducting this research? And finally, the fifth criteria is on presentation. So it's looking at how well was the research conducted and how well was the research presented. Okay, so we're going to be using these criteria to judge the Teach for All network applications and decide who the winning team is from the Teach for All network. And then the SCOL judging panel in Oxford will use this criteria to judge who wins the overall competition. Okay. So when can people start doing the research? People can start doing the research as soon as they register. Okay. So if your people register tomorrow, they can crack on with the research, and they can even draw on research they've done in the past. So there's nothing special about the date of the 8th of January, apart from that is the deadline to register, but nothing's going to happen on that day. Okay, people can start doing this whenever. They just need to tell SCOL they're doing it by the 8th of January. Finally, my hope for this competition is that it's relatively easy for you guys to roll out. And doesn't take masses of extra work. I really do encourage you to adapt this to your local context. So if you're running an innovation series, think about how you can use this competition to deliver some of your innovation series. Or if you're doing projects with your second years during the 2-year program, how can you use this competition to deliver some of that project? If you've been working with people earlier in this year and they've done a bunch of research, this could be something that you can offer them that would be interesting and engaging for them to take part in, but relatively low lift from your end. Those are all the questions. I'm going to send you, well, you've got it, this big follow-up email with the presentation, with the criteria, with the bounce back email, with the link to the Facebook group. If you have any questions in between now and whenever, just drop me an email. And I will be organising a call now as well for us to all meet as a group in January once we know who is applying from the Teach for All network. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and I hope it all made sense.